Alright guys and gals, this is a long play and review and I suppose a walkthrough for Pyjamarama on the Amstrad CPC, released by Mikro-Gen and also Amsoft in 1984. Although largely forgotten about now in the wake of Dizzy and many others, when this was released, it was a highly influential game and arguably the first arcade adventure on the home computers that required you to pick up objects and use them to solve puzzles whilst jumping around in a standard platform affair, avoiding the nasties. Without Pyjamarama, there might not have been a Magic Knight series or a Dizzy series, for example. Indeed, this spawned its own sequels in Everyone's a Wally, Herbert's Dummy Run and 3 Weeks in Paradise. But actually, this was the second game in the series featuring Wally and his family, with Automania being the first. Anyway, this long play was a request by a member of the Amsquad on Patreon, Manuel Schulz. And if you want to help support the channel, which allows you to make suggestions for future videos and live streams, or indeed higher tier patrons get to make a specific request, just like Manuel did, please consider supporting me there. Anyway, on to the game, and the first thing to do is look at a map of the game and have that handy. I used one I found in Antics magazine, however it's really confusing to follow, especially due to how the game and room layout is designed, which doesn't really follow logical paths. So I've edited this map and colorized the links and marked in all the objects, plus corrected a few mistakes. So have this updated map handy if you're wanting to follow this as a walkthrough. But as we play, I'll have text on screen as to the task I'm currently doing. So let's at last boot this up. Oh yay! Off we go. And we're playing the Amsoft version here today, which I believe is identical to the Mikro-Gen original. I've not spotted any differences apart from a different loading screen. And there you go, there's the standard Amsoft loading screen, which we should pretty much all be very familiar with by now, especially if you've been watching this channel for a while. And title screen, Pyjamarama, starring Wally Week by Mikro-Gen. And we get a bit of a jingle of music as well, which is okay, nice and jolly. And we get a rolling demo of the game in action, so this should give you an idea of what to expect. So the story of this game, according to the manual, is that you control Wally Week. In his dream, he is sleeping and you have to wake him up before he oversleeps and is late going to work. Just imagine having to do this every night. Anyway, the ultimate goal is to get the clock key, which is hidden on the moon by some protective magnetic barriers. Wind the clock up so it will go off and wake Wally up in time and the game is won. But to disable the magnetic barriers, you'll need a magnet, and which is located in a box that requires unlocking with a special key, which is at the top of a room where only a helium balloon is tied up. So you need to use the scissors to cut the rope to the balloon, hold on to the balloon and use that to float up to get the box key, and so on and so forth. It's one of those games, but within it is actually some arcadey mini games too, and it's quite a cool little game for its time. But to make the long play more interesting and helpful for those needing a walkthrough, I'll be adding text at the bottom of the screen as to what task I'm doing, and I figured out there's about 23 tasks in total. And there's also several items that are useless in the game, but you still have to pick them up and then drop them if you want to get a 100% rating at the end of the game. So there's a few red herrings here and there. But as I said earlier, the layout of Wally's house and how the rooms and floors interact with each other can be rather confusing, so a map is a must, so get that ready if you want to follow along. So, off we go at the start of the game. You pick up a door handle, you've got a round key, and there's a radio at the start there. They are all useless items, but you have to at least pick them up at least once to get the 100% rating. The first thing we've got to do here is pick up this pound coin on the table. And actually some quite difficult timing to jump between the angry roast chickens there. So you can see there at the bottom of the screen I've added in some text. So we're on tasks 1 and 2, as I call them. You kind of do both at the same time here. So we've got to exchange the pound coin for a penny at the coin exchange. And also on the way, we're going to pick up this library ticket, which we're going to exchange for a library book also on the way. Oops, I left the pound coin there. So this inventory system is kind of like on a first in, first out, and only 2 items at a time kind of system. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of backtracking here and there. You can only carry 2 items. So what I've tried to do here, guys, is plan the quickest route possible to complete the game, or the most efficient route. Unfortunately, it got a little bit derailed towards the end. I took longer than I needed to. I got a bit unlucky. Well, you'll see why later. And here we are at the coin exchange. Just jump up there and swap the pounds for a penny. And we've got the library book. Now, we're already on to task 3, which is get the hammer. And there's a certain door that is locked that you need to use a penny to get through. And it'll be the door in the next room. The room we're going to through that door is the toilet. Now, this kind of puzzle might. There you go. We got through the door. That will be locked otherwise if you didn't have the penny. And there's the hammer. So yeah, this might. Oh, there's a hand coming out the toilet. How lovely. So that puzzle might have been really obscure to anyone not in the UK. Because there's a phrase in England we use, to spend a penny, which is like to go to the toilet to have a wee. I think that comes from basically public toilets where you had to literally pay a penny to go in through the door to go and use the toilet. I think that's where it comes from anyway. We're going to turn on the... there's a beach ball there. That's absolutely useless, but we're just picking it up to get the 100% rating. And we've also turned on the lift there, which is task 4. And we now need to get the bucket, which is on this room. And we can leave the library book here, because it's actually needed in the room next to it, but we're not going to do it yet. We need one other item first. So we're going to get the bucket, leaving the library book here. Oh, we need to get the hammer back. And then we're going to fill the bucket up at the tap in the bathroom. So there's about I've got written down here about 23 different tasks in the game, and hopefully this is all making sense. Yeah, got to watch out for the hands that spawn out the floor there. They can really drain your energy quickly. There's actually one just below me there that would have appeared if I stayed a little bit longer in the room. And yeah, so, actually, we're near where we get the bucket. So watch that, there's the tap. The bucket is now full, if you look very carefully, top right. Oh, drop the bucket. That purple tap, or pink tap, fills up the bucket. There's a towel there to pick up, but it's useless, so just drop it again straight away. Task 5, exchange the bucket for the fuel can. You'll see it labelled with BP, British Petroleum. Anyway, and it also stops the plants from snapping in that room. And you can slide down the banister there as well. That's the only way to get the crash helmet, but you need an item to get the crash helmet, which we'll come to later. We're going to have a bit of a walk around here. So actually, Pyjamarama was actually a song by Roxy Music in 1973. There you go. That stopped the plants from snapping. Now, normally those like Venus flytraps would be snapping at you, but the the bucket of water stops them from snapping. Oh, we're in the lift here, and we need to smash the glass with the hammer to get the fire extinguisher. Right. Okay. And then we need to go back and get the fuel, and then we need to get the fuel can filled up, and then we're going on the roof with the fuel can and the with the fire extinguisher. So yeah, a song by Roxy Music was called Pyjamarama in 1973, but its melody bears no resemblance. We just filled up the fuel can there. Melody bears no resemblance to the song we heard on the title screen. Cross is useless, just pick it up and drop it. And I've no idea why the song is actually called that. The lyrics don't allude to anything. I guess Pyjamarama is lots of people spending time together wearing pyjamas. Well, Wally Week is in his pyjamas, so... Oh, move very quickly here. If you take too long, a ball comes across the room and smashes you. Yes, and we get some booby trap doors that give you a boxing glove. So we use the fire extinguisher to get past the fire on the roof there, and we picked up the square key. We're now off to get the gun, and the square key opens the door to the billiards room or pool room. And we can leave the square key there because we don't need to actually go back there again. Now we need to go and find the triangle key. And we can leave the fuel can there for now. So yeah, there's a few things I want to talk about. It's finally time to talk about it whilst describing what's going on in the game. Yeah. So yeah, we got the fuel can and we got the gun. I think we're gonna yes, get the triangle key, and we're gonna get the gun loaded up. So we need to go unlock the door that requires a triangle key. And there'll be a crystal orb in a nearby room, which we need to pick up and drop for that 100% rating. Otherwise, the crystal orb is useless. And then we're going to pick up the power pack, the battery, and the gun is then charged. Right? Seems strange that you would charge up a gun, but it's a laser gun, basically, sort of thing. Anyway. So we're just going to go back. There was the battery, but we need to go out the room and then back through that door so we can get to that crystal orb to pick it up and drop it. That 3-ton weight drops down and goes in your way. You can't jump over that 3-ton weight and it will instantly kill you. There's another in this room, but we can easily avoid it. And we can leave the battery there. As you can see there, top right, the gun is full. There you go. And just drop through the floor there and walked us back a bit. So we now need to get the fuel can. Oh, that was some energy we picked up there. So dotted around the place is like basically food and drink items. There's a drink, and that fills up your milk, which is like your energy meter in the top left corner there. And you can see there Wally's got 3 lives in the game. There are instant kills, which I've already mentioned. There was that ball on the lower section of the roof that will kill you. Oh, there we go. Look, we're in a rocket flying to the moon. And then other enemies will drain your energy. So if you arrive on the moon without the gun, and you can leave the gun there, those space invaders will be basically lower down and blocking your route through. But we've got them up there, the top of the screen there, and they can stay there. So what we're doing here is we're using the lift. So we're jumping into the number 1 light, and that will take us to floor 1. And we go get the driving license, which is there in the bottom right corner. We're just going to have to wait for the ghosts to move to get to it. Okay. And we can leave the fuel can for now. We need to go back on the roof. Oh, look, there's a cup of tea that spawned. That wasn't there before. So energy and health pickups respawn throughout the game, I think. So it's worth remembering where those locations are for health, because your milk does start trickling down. It just did there, actually. Oh, yes, swap the driver's license for the ignition keys and pick up the sword here, then drop the sword. And try not to take too much damage doing so. Quite a tricky room here. So your milk level trickles down anyway the longer you take in the game. Oh, and now we can go to the video games room in a second. A couple of items here that are useless to pick up and drop. Apparently, you can take this joystick here to the space invaders on the moon, and I think you might be able to sort of shoot them. I only learnt about that possibility after completing the game, but hey, never mind. It's useless. Go to the video games room, and we get like a little mini game. So here, you're just going to destroy the waves of enemies. We need to do a full loop, so there'll be different set of enemies after these snapping plants. So we need to kill all the waves and get back to the snapping plants wave, and then you can leave. I believe the game awards you with a bonus life, but also you have to do it to get the 100% rating. So let's talk about the people behind the game. So the coder of this, believe it or not, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, was David Perry. Yes, that David Perry. And it was his very first published game. And it's a conversion job of the Specky original by Chris Hinsley. And it's, of course, David's first game on the Amstrad CPC. He did so well on it, and pleased Mikro-Gen so much, that he was allowed to make his own game, which became the 4th in the Wally series, Herbert's Dummy Run. David, of course, went on to great success We're starting on the Amstrad with Savage, Trantor, Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, and many more before hitting the big time on the 16 bits with the Terminator, Aladdin, Earthworm Jim, and many, many more, and is now a very successful entrepreneur in the gaming industry. So there are other games in the Wally Week series. The first Wally game was Automania, a platformer with a side of jetpack. But that was specky in Commodore 64 only, not on the Amstrad, sadly. Pyjamarama, of course, was the second game. And it said that it's the first true arcade adventure. And it's according to the coder himself, Chris Hinsley, of the Specky original. In the sense, he says, to quote from him in the Retro Gamer article they interviewed him, in the sense that you had to use objects to solve puzzles in certain locations, he specifies. And it's hard to think of a game that came out before Pyjamarama that did do this and had all the platforming in it as well. And he says that the idea that Wally is in a dream was born from technical reasons. If you notice the objects in the game, from chairs, toilets, sinks, etc., they are much larger than Wally. This is because Chris, the Specky coder, couldn't work out a way to make them smaller without them looking crap. It also gave him more artistic license to get away with whatever he wanted in the game, because it was a dream. It's all a dream. There you go. So the third game in the series was Everyone's a Wally, which had multiple different characters to control to solve different puzzles, and I think the last game that Chris Hinsley worked on. And then the fourth and fifth game were all done by David Perry, and that's Herbert's Dummy Run. And then probably most well known here, 3 Weeks in Paradise, which I will probably do a long play of at some point soon. So there you go. That was the Wally Week series. And I think by not long after 3 Weeks in Paradise, I think Mikro-Gen pretty much had gone out of business. I can't remember their timeline too much. But there you go. And there we go. I think we've just done a full sweep of all the enemies there. A complete loop so we can leave the video games room. So that should have awarded you basically a bonus life, but we got a full set of lives. But I think it's needed to be done so we can get the 100% completion score at the end. So we've got the ignition keys. And now we need to slide down the banister on the stairs to get the crash helmet at the bottom. And you swap it for the ignition keys. So some of these are a bit... how you link objects together is a little bit like here. Oh, yeah, it's a jump and then hit the rope, climb on the rope, and it will slide you down there. And now we've got the crash helmet. So driver's license for ignition keys, that kind of makes sense. Ignition keys for crash helmet, maybe. I don't know. Some of these puzzles. Some of them are pretty obvious, some of them a bit slightly on the esoteric side, maybe. Anyway, so we need to go back and get the library book. Oh, the lift has been deactivated because the switch is pointing upwards. To turn it on, the switch has to be pointing down. So remember that, because we may fall foul of that later on. That's where the library book is. And this is one of the few examples, after we get the library book, where you need 2 objects at one time. So, in this room, to get the scissors, notice how you got the falling books there. Well, to get past them, the only way to get past them is to have the crash helmet. And basically, scissors is swapped with the library book. So, library book and scissors, I don't really get the connection that much. It's a bit esoteric there. Conveyor control there stops the conveyor belt from moving in that room. Otherwise, it's next to useless. But we've got to pick it up for that 100% score. We need to activate the help switch. So the arrow points down in this room. This allows a box to appear in the room with the helium balloon. Which will allow you to jump and get the keys. Otherwise, it'd be impossible to get there. So now we're going to go to the room with the balloon, and then we need to walk into the balloon, and the scissors will cut the rope to the balloon, even though you don't actually see a rope on the bottom of the balloon to the floor or something, and you'll float up and get to the box key. You'll see it very shortly. There it is. So yeah, the scissors cut the rope there and you float up. So without activating the help switch, that red T chest there would not be there to jump on, so you can jump up and get the key, and you can just leave the scissors there. Right, task 20 of 23. So we're getting quite close to the end. So now we've got the box key. We can go back to the room, which had the magnet in a little box. And then we can swap the key for the magnet after opening the box, essentially. And that is the magnet we need to deactivate the magnetic lock on the moon to get to the clock key, which is the final item we need to get in the game. So, yeah. Okay, we'll go through one of these doors here, and it should loop us back to... There it is. There's the magnet we need. And we've got the box key. Boom, there we go. You might as well leave the box key there, or keep the conveyor control. So now 21. Get a fuel can from the driving license room. Look, notice here the lift is on. Still, we jump up there and just make sure it's switched on. Yeah, you'll see in a minute. We need to refuel the fuel can, and with the magnet jump into the rocket, and that's the final bit of the game. So, right. Just need to hit a switch in the lift here. We need to go to floor 1. So we jump at the number 1 there. There you go. And that will take us to floor 1. And there's the fuel can we need. Right, get the fuel can. We need to fill it up again because we used it already. Oh, there's an ice cream there to refuel our energy. How handy. That wasn't there before. It spawned later in the game. We're going to jump into the lift. But oh no! We can't jump into the lift. What's going on? Well, I'll tell you what's going on. The whole lift system's been deactivated. And I don't understand why. I guess it might be on a timer or number of steps you've moved. I've not worked it out. So we could be finishing the game in about 30 seconds from this point. Instead, we're going to have to do a massive loop round now to get to the room where we can activate the lift. And I'm just trying to work out what to do here. And I think we're going to have to take a long way around here. So that room's locked. Even though that was the triangle key door, I think. And we left the triangle key behind there. The other doors we unlocked with items, they stay unlocked. Apart from that door, rather annoyingly. So we're going to have to do the long way by going out on the roof. So let's talk about magazine reviews. And we always look for the Amstrad Action one. And indeed, this was reviewed in Amstrad Action's very first issue in October of 1985. Now, they really liked this and acknowledged that it broke new ground in the arcade adventure genre. They liked the graphics, the combination of genres, the humorous touches and puzzle solving, but thought there were too many red herrings, and once completed, you won't go back to it. Which I think is fair enough, actually. Yeah. So they gave the graphics 78%, Sonics 51%, grab factor 88%, staying power 72%, with an overall AA rating of 79%. Wow. It just goes to show how well regarded this game was back in the very early days of 1984-85. And how it was quite original and possibly groundbreaking at the time. If that's not a too grandiose word to use. Anyway, grandiose. Anyway, as for my review, well, I don't think it's aged well. Especially when you look at games like Dizzy and things that come out after it. But you've got to give it respect for being one of the very first true arcade adventures, mixing puzzle solving with items and arcadey platforming. Oh, look, there's a lift room, and it's turned off. Yes, there you go. Just turned it on there. If only the room layouts and shortcuts made more sense, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. This would be an absolute nightmare to map from scratch. However, it's still an important piece of early computing gaming history that still holds a lot of charm. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10, 70% on the nose. And here we go, right, there we go. So we got the fuel can full, and we've got the magnet. And now we're on task 22 of 23. Disable the magnetic lock with the magnet. So just jump into that with the magnet, and there you go. The barriers are down. And we can get the clock key. And make sure you don't leave the fuel can there. otherwise you won't be able to get back. And I've left it there, so we need to go back and just swap that for the magnet. You can leave the magnet there now. There you go. And that's basically all the puzzles solved. On the final task, go to the sleeping Wally's room, walk into the clock, and the game is won. There you go. Jump back in the rocket. I mean, the whole rocket thing and going to the moon and stuff, it's a really nice touch. I like the little touches of like animation of like a rocket taking off. Okay, there's no frames of animation on it, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean, guys. So I'm just got to get to Wally's bedroom here. Why there's a coin exchange in his house, I don't know. Okay, here we go. We did it. We have awoken the sleeping Wally. And now lots of fireworks are going off, apparently. Congratulations! Wally's woken up. For once he will get to his work on time. Now watch out for the life of Wally. Well, we didn't get the life of Wally. We got everyone's a Wally, which had multiple different characters to control from his friends and family, I think. Anyway, Wally has walked 2,391 paces and has solved 100% of the adventure. And we would have walked a lot less paces if that lift switch hadn't got turned off randomly. And there we go. So let's just talk about the other versions quickly. So this was on the ZX Spectrum, and the Specky was the original, and the Amstrad conversion is very similar. The Specky one plays a lot faster, but suffers badly from the colour clash. The Amstrad version looks a bit squashed down vertically in comparison too, but it doesn't affect the gameplay, just makes Wally look even more fat. Now they're both equally as colourful as each other. It seems like the Amstrad port is done in mode 0, which is unusual for what appears to be a Specky port. Often they're done very quickly in mode 1, which is a limit of 4 colours. So it just depends on whether you prefer the slightly faster speed of the Specky version or the absence of colour clash on the Amstrad. Although sprites are oddly one colour and see-through. But at least they don't colour clash. And it's also got a conversion to the Commodore 64. Well, the C64 port has the speed of the Specky and the nicer graphics of the Amstrad. But I have to say the background graphics are better defined. The pastel colours are more subtle than the Amstrad's too, and for once I think I prefer that here. It also has one colour see-through sprites, which is odd again. And unless there's any bugs or gameplay deficiencies I've not come across, arguably I think I would say the Commodore 64 version is the winner here. Although I could argue back that the Amstrad has more early days of computing charm about it. So my heart's with the Amstrad version. So there you go. So yeah guys, thank you very, very much for watching. I'll give this a 70%. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed this one, especially you, Manuel. This one's for you, buddy. Enjoy. And thank you. Goodbye.
So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please click a like below, leave a comment, and also subscribe if you haven't already. And over that way, there's another video for you to check out. Zypho, out.